Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Josh Owen. I am the Vignelli Distinguished Professor of Design and the Director of the Vignelli Center for Design Studies here at RIT. Tonight marks the first event of our Fall 24 Vignelli Design Conversations series presented by Design Milk and RIT's Magic Center, and made possible in part by the generosity of RIT alumnus Chris Bailey and Bailey Brand Consulting. I'd like to begin by offering my thanks to RIT's Magic Center, their team of faculty, staff, and students, as well as our interpreters for this evening, Tiffany Taylor Contreras and Carlton Mangonon, for their work. I would like to also recognize the contribution of graphic design student Hannah Nedikaden for her beautiful branding for tonight's lecture, as well as this year's series overall. Rochester Institute of Technology's Vignelli Center for Design Studies is an international hub for education, research, collaboration, and advocacy, which expands the scope of the programs in the College of Art and Design School of Design. The facility houses the archive of renowned designers Lella and Massimo Vignelli, whose works are icons of international design. The center and archive sit within RIT's College of Art and Design, which was built on the traditional territory of the Onondaga, or people of the Great Hill. In English, they are known as Seneca people, the keepers of the Western Door. They are one of the 6 sovereign nations that make up the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We honor the land on which RIT was built and recognize the unique relationship that the indigenous stewards have with this land. That relationship is the core of their traditions, cultures, and histories. We recognize the history of genocide, colonization, and assimilation of indigenous people that took place on this land. Mindful of these histories, we work towards understanding, acknowledging, and reconciling. As stewards of history and content, we must acknowledge and seek to learn from our context, bad and good, ugly and beautiful. This applies to the Vignelli Center as it does to any archive. The Vignellis taught us that design is a systematic and scalable framework for solving problems large and small. Their philosophy, design is one, leaves us with a universal message that design is a lens through which we can envision a more inclusive and more sustainable tomorrow. Tonight's guest is no stranger to the Vignelli Center, to RIT, or our community here in Rochester. Quite the contrary, his participation in our midst has made his impact inseparable from our collective identity. I feel fortunate to call him both colleague and friend. Known for his creative vision and entrepreneurial spirit, Chuck Cerankosky is a co-owner of the renowned restaurants Good Luck, Cure, Jackrabbit Club, Radio Social, and Lucky's, as well as the cocktail bar Martine, which if you haven't visited yet, you should. He is also the founder of the Rochester Cocktail Revival, a celebrated week-long festival that showcases the region's cocktails and bars, just having finished its 11th year. Under his leadership, Good Luck earned a spot on Esquire magazine's list of the 18 best bars in America in 2016, and was recognized by the Rochester Business Journal as one of the top fine dining restaurants in the region. Radio Social was named by USA Today as one of the best bars in the United States in 2024. Cerankosky's design expertise extends beyond his own businesses to include contributions to prominent projects such as the Meatball Shop and Seamore's in New York City, as well as establishments like Boxcar Doughnuts, Frog Pond, Boomtown Table, and Java's. With a dedication to excellence and innovation, he oversees a team of approximately 130 employees, continually shaping the culinary and design landscapes with his work. Chuck is a 2003 alumnus of RIT's Industrial Design Program and a sponsor of RIT's Industrial Design Meta Project 08 Designing Dining. On a personal note, I must share that when my wife and I were considering our move to Rochester from Philadelphia 15 years ago, we entered Good Luck Restaurant and immediately shared a sigh of collective relief. In all honesty, in my family, we marked the moment we entered Chuck's restaurant as the moment that we knew we had a place that we could feel at home in here in a city that was new to us. So thank you, Chuck, for being a part of my recruitment. Please join me in celebrating and welcoming home to RIT the indelible Chuck Cerankosky.
Okay. Hello. So the first one, I didn't know this was the first one, and of the current series. But that means that if you go to the other ones, it's only going to get better than this one. But you got the restaurant guy, and we're going to talk a little bit about how design to me is so important through my life and my career. And a theme of tonight is how I learned pretty quickly because of circumstance in my life, how an untraditional path can still be so informed by that lens of design that Josh talks about. I never grew up thinking I would own a bunch of restaurants. I've never served a table or really bartended in my life. But it started as a business opportunity that expanded into something that kind of defines me. And I do a lot of design on the side, and I do design for the restaurants, and then design a lot of freelance projects in the last 25 years that I've been here. But most importantly, we're going to talk a little bit about how design is so important to me. So thank you for being here. Thanks to Josh and everyone at the Vignelli Center, Roblin and Amanda, and their two interpreters. Thank you so much. And again, my name is Chuck Cerankosky. I don't know if I said that yet. I have a habit when I speak in public of forgetting to introduce myself. So, hello. And hello. I grew up near Cleveland, Ohio, on the east side of Cleveland, and I came to Rochester, New York in 1999 to go to RIT. And I graduated with highest honors, which I mentioned because, again, I'm a restaurant guy. I was very good at it, right? School told me that. Highest honors. In 2003, the minor in creative writing. I live in Brighton, just outside the city, with my wife, Allie. The two large people to my left there in the picture are Sophie and Rain, my original children from my first marriage. And then Allie and I have those two beautiful boys, Rhodes and Otis, up there. So that's what I do. We also have a dog named Louie, who is not in the photo. And I forget to mention him a lot, but we do have a dog. My wife has a dog that lives in my house, maybe is a more accurate way to say it. Anyway, one thing wanted to start out, presumably we have some RIT industrial design students here. This is what I did. This is a selection of my portfolio when I was a student here. And I'm going to, as a lesson, your professors maybe will thank me for this, but as a lesson, as kind of a sidecar to this presentation, I'm going to tell you this. Drawing is so important. Computer literacy is important. Drawing is essential to be a designer in my view. All these things, these are obviously, there's a little Fisher-Price action going on, and I forget what the middle one was. Rochester used to have this company called Kodak, made cameras. No, they still have it, but we drew a lot of cameras back in 2001 and 2. But point is that skill that I thought that I took for granted, because you just like to doodle, you'll see that through the remainder of my slides. But drawing is so important, because no matter where this journey is going to take you, I tell you the way not only does it save you money, not only does it communicate an idea, but it's just satisfying to sit next to someone trying to go like this, and you say, well, actually, if we put this here, and maybe this is what you're thinking, and you'll see faces light up, and it's a communicative tool that's great. But I really liked being at RIT. I grew up, again, in a small town in Ohio. I didn't really know what design was. I think I started at RIT as a graphic designer, and then somewhere through we were in the quarter system then, and halfway through the first quarter, I changed my major to industrial design because I honestly hadn't heard of it in Ohio in my high school. We didn't know what it was, but something that really drew me to it back then was, again, a larger context that I don't know that I could define right then, but I knew that industrial design, the way that it encompassed form, the way that it involved multiple systems, was something that really interests me more than a two-dimensional space. So again, came for graphic design, and then became an industrial designer pretty quick. This is what I do now. I co-own, as Josh mentioned, 6 food and beverage concepts, plus a festival called Rochester Cocktail Revival. But people ask me, and it's actually funny, I have my aunt, who's from Ohio, is coming to visit in a couple weekends. And even my family, they ask, what do you do? Like, what do you do? And when you say I own a restaurant, I mean, what were you thinking at the beginning? Because we all have a definition of what a restaurant is. Like, to me, they're grand and they're celebratory, and they're very, very somewhat well designed, I think. But sometimes restaurants are way less than that, so people don't understand what I do. But first of all, I'm an operator, so I actually go to. I don't serve the tables, and I don't cook the food, but I am the president of the restaurants and help run them with my partners, teams. And then there's these other words like a director, because I call the shots and say do this, do that, depending on what the project is. But I'm always creatively involved. I'm not always doing the creative. I oftentimes am, but not always. But I always like to have an input, and we're going to talk about that. In a baseline, I'm a manager, a restaurateur, a coach. But all these things to me are something that a designer does. So we know about product design and exhibit design or interior design and all the things that a designer does for that. But those words there, for me, have always been influenced by design. And then, as Josh mentioned, I've done a whole bunch of freelance projects. Some locally, many in New York City that were offshoots of each other. But I've always stayed between RIT days and now, like very involved in practical design or practicing design, but just again in a different way. We'll talk about that in a moment. So one thing that is that I noticed preparing for this, thinking about what design means to me, is that I have a very full life. Again, I have 4 kids. I'm 43 years old, so I was a young dad and I'm still a young dad. Got a big family, and I got 4 kids and an active family, a lot of family, and 6 restaurants, right? The only way that I do it is because I think of it as a designer. I think of all of the ways to solve problems, to see an aesthetic that you want to get to, and hide the mechanical components to have a nice pleasing product at the end. But I wasn't on a very likely path to get where I am, I guess, because I learned that I had to embrace what was not a traditional, I guess, life path for a young man at the time, and that's because I became a dad very early. So in the first slide there, my oldest Sophie is 23 and is a wonderful young woman. Rain is 19, but I became a dad while I was the age that some of you are in this room. I became a dad while I was in college, and that influenced what I was going to do. So I had the opportunity and had some of the sort of, I got the callbacks for interviews and jobs. I was offered a couple of paid internships and one job or two in New York, but it wasn't right, peeling right out of college in 2003. So I stayed put. And I worked right when I finished. Does anyone in the room know Kim Sherman, by a show of hands? Yeah, Kim Sherman, awesome guy. Kim had a company called Think Design, and he hired me on out of school and did some did some work there, and stayed put in Rochester. But it ended up showing me that while you might think as you're sitting and sketching and you're going through your semesters now at RIT that, if you're a junior and a senior and you're going to start assembling that portfolio and sending it out and going to career days and taking job interviews, that's a path and it's great. There's other ways also that as long as you keep design with you, it'll serve you well later on. And so I don't know, we're going to show the way that this worked for me. I don't know if it's the way, but it is a way to do it. And I think the lesson is that it's good that when life is messy or unscripted, you can always look to design to help guide your career, guide your path. These are projects that I got into right out of school, or I was involved in right out of school. So the left one is just work. That was actually a project through Think Design. This is an example, I guess, of the things that professors would tell me when I learned Adobe Illustrator here at RIT. So you'll see though when you're in a job, you're gonna learn more the first day than you do this entire course. That is true. That is what happens. And this was cool. This was designing the graphic user interface for a kidney dialysis machine. So I had that job for a little while, and Kim, you're not here, are you? Kim Sherman? Working there, it was like in a basement. It was like a polite basement. There were windows like those little there were lights. But I was working in a basement designing a kidney dialysis machine. I just got here we go. I'm doing it, and but I started it. Is this what is me? I don't know. It was great, and we're always going to take the entry level job and work up. The next thing, this was an early freelance project I did. I get a kick out of this because this guy, who I cannot remember his name now, lived in Atlanta, and he had made a lot of money in a non-design way, figuring out, apparently when you are driving your car listening to the radio, your radio reflects the signal that it's receiving. So he made millions of dollars putting these transponders on billboards in the Atlanta area so that he could prove what everyone was listening to on the radio. So he was selling market data back. This was again in 04 or 05. I don't, whatever level of technology we are. So he made all this money and he hired me. And we invented the Apple Watch. There it is. See, January 26, 2004. There it is. But no, the idea was this device. He had this kind of concept that this was going to be the scourge of middle schools, and kids were going to beg their parents to buy them these things, and they'd have all their friends' names in there, and the music they listened to, and you'd somehow bump the watches together. And it wasn't like AirDrop. It wasn't like your card on the reader. It would there was a little transmitter, and it would take all the. It was like social networking through a wristwatch. It was kind of neat. Besides it being funny that we can claim to have invented the Apple Watch, remember, write that down. No, but I started already leaving these early jobs or leaving RIT. Does design always have to be a thing? Is the product always something that you hold? Is it always a backpack? Is it always a phone case? And of course the answer is not. No. But when you're trying so hard, again, I'm a young father, I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to get it done, you're wondering, is there another way? And I've struggled with that sentence down there. Is obsolescence a requirement? It's almost like having a premonition of, do I want to design things that are going to be thrown away? Do I want to design things that are just going to not be, cast aside and not used anymore? And I like to think then about, I was already thinking furniture lasts. And then of course there are artifacts of consumerism, like the items that Vignelli's designed, or Knoll, or Alessi, and we see those things. But now fast forward all these years, and you've got Temu and Amazon, and there's just stuff all over the place. And I wanted to be a non-stuff designer, but I didn't have anyone to show me what that was. I didn't know how to do it. This always like helps define it for me because maybe it's something I realize later. And there's something about that over there that which is also I'm a restaurant guy, so my kids' Legos are in restaurant bus bins. That's what that black container is. But there's something about that. There's something about, and I don't know, has anyone ever built anything from a pile of Legos? Not a set with the instructions. You ever done that? Sure. And you find this thing that your brain does, right? Because you're gonna build, let's say you're gonna build an airplane. And of course you're looking through for things in there and there's like a little plate, okay, that'll be the bottom of the fuselage and I'm gonna start putting things on it. And then you find a piece that you didn't plan on having. And then you, okay, I'll incorporate that. And all of a sudden the airplane has like 2 wings and it's cool. Like because you didn't plan on the path, but you as you have that availability of all those tools, it kind of dictates where you're going. I thought a little bit about other things I enjoy. I like to sail. It's my very glorious sailboat there. It's a tiny little Laser 2 that was that I keep on Ontario Beach, or Ontario Lake. But sailing's the same way. You go out there and you know you're gonna go out and presumably come back, but you don't know what you're gonna encounter the whole way. And the design of it or the aesthetic of it is actually embracing that. It's not perfectly scripted. The right image is what we all have, and that was a physical notebook. In that notebook is Good Luck, which we're going to talk about my first restaurant. And it was a tome of all of these things, all of these clippings and articles and just articles, ideas, sketches, napkin sketches, just research, thoughts that we're going to get into in a few minutes. But again, at the time I was like, I don't know, 2008 and those years before the restaurant opened, am I designing? I don't know, because I feel like I'm always just getting these like little scraps of ideas, but isn't that what a sketch is to become a product later? So the thing that I will say, if I am up here in an educational platform, is that targets are a good idea. I teach my staff this all the time. It's okay to start with a kit of parts like that, but it's always good to have a target. We're not doing chaos. We are designers. We're not just ending up. Let's not set out to design an airplane out of Legos, to build an airplane and then end up with a flower pot, right? Like let's have a target. So that's little Otis. That's my youngest little guy there. He's building a double-decker bus. It's adorable. But so sometimes the instructions help. Okay, so this is Good Luck in 2008. Some of these are photos that no one has ever seen. Anyway, these are this kind of shows like back to we're gonna make a restaurant. What is a restaurant? Like some people don't like to go to restaurants. Some people consider Taco Bell a restaurant. Some people consider a restaurant much fancier than Good Luck, their ideal restaurant. But this was a restaurant made through a design lens. I have 2 partners, Mike and Dan. Dan's a chef. Mike was a mentor to me and a really good personable front of house guy. But I was the guy that got to come in with the design degree. And then that means the contractors, when I was like, I want this front wall to look like this, they're going to get a sketch. Yes, they are. They're going to get a sketch. And I want it to look like that, build that. Not like they get to like draw and go get the molding. Like, there's all kinds of like metal ideas and plates and benches and things like that. But this was a place where, because it was the first restaurant, and it's not that we didn't know what we were doing because we didn't know how to operate a food service business. I used to work at Java's, the downtown one that encompasses the one here and all this stuff, but I was a coffee guy for a long time and while I was going to school. And then Mike and Dan independently had experience. Dan had a lot of restaurant experience. It wasn't that we didn't know what we were doing is operating a business, but we didn't know what we were doing in like making something that people hadn't seen before. Good Luck at the time like opened in Rochester when no one was doing a restaurant that would like change its menu all the time and have weird ingredients and wild game on the menu. And it looked rough. It looked rough and rugged inside. I put some of these images in here so you can see the physical things that are, here's thinking like a designer for all the appointments of the restaurant. So There's some sketches of some lighting that are there, and it's cool that left side, the center image, those cylinders on there were sketches that I worked with a local glass artist. So Elizabeth Lyons in Moorfire Glass Studio blew these glass forms there. And then there's some more mundane, just that's how the bar would look, and there's again how a dividing wall would look. Again, we're really sketching out this industrial feel. But then some of the other design were the words. And you can see up there, that one, I don't know, again, I never hosted anywhere. I wasn't a maitre d', but I had gone to design school. So how do you say hi when people come in the restaurant? And there are all the ways when people contact the restaurant. So you can see I have all these scribblings. I got a kick out of this looking this up, but phone and online and arrival. There's the word aesthetic under arrival. Quality of greeting and all this stuff. So we wanted to really script it out. But again, by solving a problem, all these people are going to come in. We have to say hi to them. We don't want them to think that we don't want them to see them. I'm not even naturally that hospitable of a guy. It sounds weird. It sounds like I don't like people. No. I'm not naturally an extrovert, but I wanted to think of it as a designer. This little passage on the bottom left, I remember having an experience somewhere else in town. It was New Year's Eve, and I was at a restaurant, and I just remember how stressed out the staff was. And I let's design our environment so that our staff can say, "Welcome to a fantastic evening," not "Welcome to apathetic, don't give a hoot palace," or "Welcome to stressed out garden, let me see if I have time for you." Have you been to restaurants that do that? Right? They you come in and they're offended you're there, "Oh, I can't, I don't know if we gotta get caught up." Well, that's a real emotion. Feel bad for those people and be nice to them. But as a designer, you can maybe design a place that's not your baseline. And that was important. This is Good Luck Today. And this is a restaurant on Anderson Avenue, downtown, in the neighborhood of the arts. Look at that design guy, opens a restaurant, neighborhood of the arts, of course. But lots of cool stuff. You can see some of those sketches manifest a little bit there. The thing that I forgot to say in the previous slide, I can go back, right? I do this all the time. No, the bottom thing, accidents, found objects, mistakes, and then revisions. So we designed the restaurant again with that notebook and all these things, it had a lot of accidents. Example, we thought as the designers that things were going to be just so. So night one, I remember we opened the restaurant, we had this old spool for industrial wiring. It looks like a spool of thread, except it's about 48 inches high and 3 feet in diameter. And then we were going to serve wine bottles on it. But who's worked in a restaurant here? A couple of you, great. So one thing that is really hard in a really busy restaurant is when the table orders the wine for all the servers to run to one central point in the middle of the dining room and pour it. And if that's not near a register, so it's important that we charge you for things in the restaurant, right? So it was an accident, so get rid of it. And there were all kinds of we decorated. We wanted to look like a different time, a different place. So we had all kinds of found objects in this bottom left image there. Towards the right margin, you can see the 294 little oval there. That was an address sign from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I had gone there on a trip and bought a bunch of them, and we used them as decor, because why not? That would look cool. That kind of fits the aesthetic. I don't know. So it's design. It's a lot of decorating, right? We know the difference between that. I think we talk about that in interior design still. There's interior design and interior decorating. They're very different. But sometimes you have to decorate to complement the design. And again, this is today, but opening the restaurant in 2008, I wasn't really sure I was designing yet. I knew I had all that background. I didn't call myself a designer. Oh, you know what? I do this a lot. Sorry, go back. Where's this thing? Oh yeah. So this is actually funny. You see that picture down there on the right? That's me. I DJ sometimes. But you hear what I said? I said I DJ. Some people are like, I'm a DJ. Like they are a DJ. That's to me, it's saying I'm Spider-Man. Cool. you're not. I DJ, like I sail, I play basketball, and that is contrary to being a designer, because sometimes what I do is I sketch that little form right there and make those graphic designs for Radio Social. And design, when you're a designer, it's at your core. You're a designer that designs, but I'm not always a DJ. I'm always a designer, I'm not always a DJ. I just thought that was very cool. So, good luck. I'm not sure, am I designing or not? Like, we have this place, it's a restaurant, and obviously, most of the time it looks like that in the bottom left. It's full of people, and you can see the staff is moving so much they can't even be caught on camera. So, there's that. Okay, so, good luck with an idea. Then, it's time for another restaurant. And this is when I met Josh Owen around this time, because we did something cool, because the whole top row there involves RIT. But we have this space at the public market. It's a restaurant today. It's still a restaurant today. It's called Cure. And we are presented with a design problem, because the space is a coffee shop, Java's during the day at the public market, and it's going to transform to a restaurant at night. Immediately, there are all kinds of, I don't want to say gadgets, but there's all kinds of like physical flips. There's all kinds of like things that have to be done, have to be thought out so that the place can transform. And so we like nicknamed it like Jekyll and Hyde at first. Like, it's going to be this nice polite restaurant during the day, and that's going to be this moody restaurant at night. But what it was is that now it was interesting. I started like thinking a little more, instead of just finding stuff or making things out of, we made some lights back at Good Luck. You can kind of see there's a lot of, there's some gas pipe. There's a lot of like handmade stuff, which was very, very cool at the time. We called that industrial chic. I think they still do, but anyway, like found a lot of things we can get it done. But here we're gonna shoot. We're gonna really aim for something. And we did a project, and forgive me because I'm not going to remember exactly what the context was. It was a group of grad students, right?
They were fourth-year ID students.
Fourth-year ID students, and had these ideas about lights, and they helped make them a reality. So we did this cool collaborative lighting project, because we said, let's design, here's a project, let's give them some real-world experience. We designed some lights for the restaurant. But, you know, there was that, and then there was the idea that we were going to, we wanted to name the restaurant Cure, and Cure is in culinary terms, is the art of taking something and then usually using a lot of salt, like meat, and then preserving it. So you cure it, and there's lots of ways to cure things, but cured meat. So whenever you have like charcuterie, which now is a very ubiquitous term, but back in 2012, we were kind of like cutting edge to have your own charcuterie. We thought that we would call it Cure. Then I, as the design guy, I was like, ooh, we could do lots of cool things like that. So we could also pretend that it's like an apothecary. Like the whole thing's like, the bar is like a pharmacy, and we could decorate it like that. So kind of had these are some, I found these are some of my mood board at the time, but these are some of the things that I like latched onto. So then the other thing that this introduced in my career was the power of collaboration. A restaurant is never one person. Good Luck is the biggest, well, Radio Social is the biggest, but Good Luck is pretty big. And on a Saturday night, there's 35 people working at a time. I have 2 other partners. We have managers that do a ton of work. But there's that collaboration, but then there's building it. And this was the first time away from Good Luck that it was like kind of for me in my career above the contractor level. But you actually got to go in and have a team figure out how to make these forms and design the lights. And I like to say, like, again, if you're a student, you can be confident. There's a very technical way to show a drawing in the A, B, and C image there. And then that was, I remember seeing that. See the cord comes down to the hook, the upward hook, and I don't know if the resolution is good enough, but it kind of wrapped around, and there's that technical drawing. And then there's drawing it on a Post-it note, like how you want to do it. Drawing is important. That saves a lot of time. So, and that's how you get it done. But anyway, so then I'm like, okay, it's 2012. We're opening this restaurant. There's got to be something to it. We just designed a restaurant. Cure's very small. It's about a quarter of the size of Good Luck. It occupies this little space. Who's been there? Anyone been to Java's at the market? All right, cool. So, we started to really think about. I started to really think about this theme because it's the second restaurant. It's going to be French. I never opened a French restaurant at the time. I'd never been to France. I've since been there, but before I opened the restaurant, I'd never been to France. We're opening a French restaurant, and we wanted it to feel very, very French in a very like punky way. I oftentimes say now when I design to talk about like the mood of the restaurant, imagine, I will tell this to the staff, imagine the restaurant's owned by a French guy, and he's pretty good at English, but when he gets excited, he always like forgets English words and puts French ones in there. And it's like, we kind of think about, what if we were pretending that we opened as two American guys open a French restaurant that's owned by a French guy that's trying to make it American. He's like, doesn't want he's French, and that's all he knows, but he wants to make it American. And then maybe you get Cure out of that. But the thing that I think that really it centers on, what comes to be, when I say, wait, I am designing, is that the design problem in hospitality is that what you're designing is what you want the guest to experience, what you want the client to experience. You could say you do that with anything. You could say that with a backpack. But this is almost like three-dimensional. It surrounds you, right? Because there's lighting and there's music and there's temperature and there's those nice hard red oak steel framed chairs there. But the place has to hug you, and it's got to be about the experience. And sometimes I think the method is that you imagine the solution and then you design to that. So you create the target, and then how are we going to pull this off? This was cool because beyond also you can see in the top center of the top slide, there's those circular lights over the bar, and then kind of in the bottom slide towards the right corner, you can see those kind of bow and arrow lights that are on the wall there. The chairs that are in the foreground were cool because restaurant chairs are very expensive, and they all typically they're just awful. They're still awful. There's some out there, but the ones that are not awful sometimes will cost you close to $1,000 a chair. This restaurant has 34 chairs. You open a restaurant, you're going to spend $34,000 on chairs. There's got to be a different way to do it. So I had met a gentleman who was another RIT grad at the time when we were opening the restaurant named Seth Eshelman, who has a company called Stash. Who knows Stash locally? Great furniture shop. So that was a collaboration. I got to collaborate for the RIT on the lights, and then Stash on the form of the chairs that still are there today. So kind of set the stage for that. But started realizing again, this is more than just selling food. This is more than selling drink. I'm selling an experience. That's what people are doing. And then this fun thing. So somewhere trying to be chronologically make some chronological sense here, but in 2014, with some other bar owners, I got this idea, let's make this cocktail festival. Let's like celebrate cocktail culture in Rochester. And we could talk for hours about it. And it's this, who's heard of Rochester Cocktail Revival? Great, cool, a few of you. So Rochester Cocktail Revival right now in its modern form in the last, as it's evolved, is run by a team of creatives. My friend Leah and I and Justin Doucette and Mike Martinez and a whole bunch of others, we run this, we take some time out of our careers and run this festival every year. But what is it? And you realize there's another, it's event design. And if you've ever been to, let's say, a rave or a party, you've ever been to a concert, you've ever been to a 40th anniversary party, there's a feeling that you're intended to have as the attendee. And the biggest thing there through a design lens is that this thing, so Rochester Cocktail Revival 2024 was back in June, 83 events over 7 days at 31 locations or something like that. So we're celebrating the culture, and it's this very intensive sort of project to put together, but it all comes down to feeling. What do you want your audience to feel? All of those events, what are they, these are all the consumption of in various forms of alcoholic beverages. But I became an opening good luck, I also became like a cocktail guy. It's not so much part of this, but I really got into and really like making tasty cocktails. But I'm not a party guy. I don't do it to like in 2008 when you're designing this restaurant that no one had ever seen. It was about like enjoying the cocktail, like enjoying the quality of it. And when you're designing events, those like that there's lots of ways to feel in that architecture. Yeah, there's lots of silliness, and you can do. There definitely this year there was a long ski. They call it a shot ski, because on the ski there are shot glasses, many of them, and everyone like. It's like a German ceremony or something like that. But anyway, that's what Cocktail Revival is this big thing. That's the climactic event. That was at Radio Social. Did anyone here go to that this year? The barroom battle? Peter did. Brian did. It's not on there. But there were like 800 people right there, and look at that feeling, right? You design that feeling for all those people watching this competition. So, but that was what that had began to teach me. So Cure. Good luck. We're good luck. We did something. We carried out our vision, and then it's a success. So people must feel like it's great. And then Cure, we're making this place. It's going to be kind of hard because we have to like make this double-headed monster, because it's still got to be a coffee shop. We got to take it all apart and make it a coffee shop during the day and put it back together and make it a restaurant at night. But it's got to feel cool. It's got to feel French, and like this is also the public market at that time. We were the only restaurant. There's no Fiorella or Velvet thing, and it would. Bella Valley, and then there was nothing down. Black Button wasn't even down there. It was just like Rohrbox was on the street. I don't even think they had their room open. So we're having people drive to the public market. You better give them a reason to go there, because this is a weird restaurant. But then Cocktail Revival comes and we make all these events. So also we talked about Stash, and I talked about my colleagues with RCR. Team is so important. So as you're designing, you can't do it alone. You have to. There's infinite value in drawing, expressing your opinion about the idea, and then there's so much value in finding it with colleagues and making something really great. I guess this is my justification. Here's my brain for why feeling is essential. I read something recently that for 90% of the time that humans collectively have been on this planet, so whenever the first one started to now, 90% of the time we were hunter-gatherers. And if you think about like what we've done over the last century, and just since I graduated school, the amount of things that changes the way we communicate in the last 30 years is mind-blowing to me. I don't know if it is to you. It's very overwhelming. But I don't know how a curriculum, let alone a design theory, can deal with all of these things we're suddenly supposed to pay attention to. Raise my hand if you're wrong, but I'm pretty sure this class never exists because I never took it. How many emails is reasonable for someone to receive a day, and how many are you supposed to answer? Just that question. How many comments on Instagram are you supposed to answer? How many news notifications are you supposed to pay attention to? And then you're supposed to be so in tune to all of the jokes around the news and whatever things celebrities say that you're supposed to understand the meme your friend sends you. It's overwhelming. So what is important to me is feeling through it. Because what could be the method? Who teaches it? How do you design through it? And to me, that answer is that it has to be artificial to me. You have to provide people with something where they can feel different away from all that stuff. And that's what a restaurant tends to be. 2017 to 2018, I really start to have an opportunity to design that feeling. And this was, these images are for a place called Radio Social, which I was part of the team, on the design team to open, as well as the operations team to keep it going. But now you're making a place, and this is kind of cool because it's bowling. And bowling is like, to me at the time, I didn't bowl a lot, and I kind of got a kick out of it. Like, people pay to like do that, huh? They do that, and it's really popular. People get really into it, and there's leagues and all that stuff. But it's also very fun when you have like an event and a party, because anyone can do it. Anyone can. You can all do it. If you haven't done it before, try it. You can all do it. But got to design very, very much to a feeling, and this was like a huge collaboration because Stash again was listed as the architect for the interior architect. Live Styled did a ton of the interior detailing. I was there for advice on signage and graphics and logos and things like that. But we got to like make this place that had never been made before. So that was new because Good Luck was a fashion warehouse, but there were restaurants. We're trying to make it like a restaurant, like our image of the perfect restaurant. And Cure was a space where like it was a public market and a coffee shop, so make that a restaurant. It was Harris Interactive, but originally there it was the Stromberg Carlson Radio Factory. See where the name comes from. But we wanted to make this feeling. How do you feel when you go in there? This is another one where I worked with some really cool architects. Mauro Cringoli and Fortified, Entrada Woodworking. Weldworks is a shop that does a whole bunch of framing stuff. So this is Bar Bantam, which I do not operate, but is a downtown and the what they call the Metropolitan Building. Or if you lived here for a long time, you used to call it Chase Tower downtown. But this was a neat one because again, we're starting from scratch and we're gonna design this space. And this was unique because it's not just the inside. Most of the time in a restaurant, you have a shell. You're within it, and you're appointing the inside of the shell. This was almost making a kiosk because it's in an atrium. So you have to like make people are actually enjoying the outside of it. They're looking at they're inside, but they're looking at the outside of the structure. So that was kind of cool. But the other thing I learned with both of these is something that was very important because again, Radio Social was daunting. Radio Social, we hired from scratch something like 40 people. And I'm going to be the operator because I can do it. I'm like the design guy, but I like design restaurants, man. I told you I do. Like I'll do it. But I'm nervous. How are you going to communicate? How are you going to tell 40 people how they're supposed to like feel, how they're supposed to establish or convey your feeling in this space? So the same here when we were like kind of designing it, but I thought of these kind of like, I thought of the design of the culture, design of the restaurant culture. And in radio, we use the word kinetic because it's so big. So it wasn't like, right, because there's lots of restaurants, right, where you can walk just a couple steps from the kitchen to the table. It's quiet. Radio Social was loud as heck. There's bowling balls smashing the pins and the music's loud and there's a million people in there, so it's kinetic. But then we talked about like the idea of like speaking in the affirmative. A lot of people going around, waste a lot of time. I found that was like very inefficient in instruction when you're training people to do things. And if the right place for this is over here, and an employee is putting it here, it wastes a lot of time if it's like, don't do that. It's very efficient when that gets set down. I say, oh, hey, please set that over there for me. Talk to the affirmative. I told them what I wanted them to do. Thought of this sounds like my staff hears this all the time from me. So again, I'm an operator, like I have employees all the time. But that's a design. Just those, you think about what is inefficient and what's kind of mean. Like sometimes I would watch like people tell, like, don't do that. Like, stop it. That's not helping that new employee. Tell that employee what to do. If they come into work wearing the shirt that doesn't look good, like, hey, next time you come in, it's cool for tonight. Next time you come in, wear a shirt that looks like this. All right, cool. Like, you don't have to make them feel bad about the choice. We do this all the time in service too, right? You go to a restaurant, and this is so simple, but I think of this as a designer. You're sitting there with your menu, and the server comes over, and they say, "Can I get you something to drink?" And you say, "Can I please have a Pepsi?" And then if they're really bad at their job, they go like, we don't have Pepsi. No, that's not what they do. What do they say? You say, can I have a Pepsi? And they say, I have Coke. Is that okay? You're like, cool. What they just did is they talked in the affirmative. They told you what you have. You ask for, can I have some Tabasco? We've got Frank's Red Hot. Cool. We got Cholula. Cool. You know, so those are efficiencies. There's a design to it, and it just seems like what Target does, but maybe Target had a designer teach its team too. I don't know, but you really try to like really work on that. We is another thing I would see. So it's kinetic, affirmative, and we, but we is another design thing, because I noticed like when you had a host, and then the host would say something like someone would be on the phone like, I want a table for 7, and that poor host would be like, I'm sorry, I can do, because they were taught to speak in the affirmative. They're saying, actually, I like a table at 7. I have a table at 8. Are you out of your mind? I'm on the phone with this girl. She just said she has a table. It's not the host's fault. The host doesn't like, that's setting up all those tables. So we thought of this idea of we. Let's just say we. So, thanks so much. Really glad you want to eat here. We do have a table at 8 o'clock if that works for you. We can also squeeze you in at 6:30. And again, it just takes the fulcrum of who's going to be responsible for something. It takes the fulcrum of accountability and spreads it out amongst the team, which it should be. So super silly, like really dumb, but design. It's design. That's like how we do it. So then this is Radio Social today, and this is Bantam today. And what did I do? What I learned is that you can sell people things. You can sell them bowling lanes, and you can sell them beers. But if you make them feel something, and then you ask them to pay for it, you'd be surprised like how lucrative that can be, like how successful that can be for a business. Has anyone ever watched or read the lore of the first iPhone presentation, like the very first one? And somebody I'm so sorry. Who is Steve Jobs? Jeez, you get up here in front of people and you like forget notable people's names. But Steve Jobs, I think that the iPhone, when he debuted it, had on stage, it was like taped together. There was like a radio it wasn't like really working. So they had to do all this magic, but he was so confident in the project, but they had the date of the launch, and they had to like fake it. It's a pretty cool story if you ever come across it. But the thing is, the fervor of it, and I think of this now, because what am I, an iPhone 16, and like, cool, man, but like, when it first came out, that feeling, like you had to have it. You have to have this thing, and it is a product, and it is a backpack. And it is like, whether it's a label like Arc'teryx or Nike or like whatever, like if you make the client feel something, they're gonna have that buy-in. And they're not gonna think so much about paying for it. If they walk into the restaurant like, hey, you see, here you go, beer's like $5. You want a beer? Give me $5. Here's a beer. If you make this whole space with this beautiful lighting, these monstera plants, and all these cool bowling imagery, and these Noma corporate Copenhagen chairs and stash design. Like, I don't know what that feeling is, but people feel stuff. They like to go there, and then they keep going back. And this was Bantam. This was that sketch I showed you at the beginning. Was this cool paneling that we put up here? But I don't know. That was kind of funky. But yeah, there's Bantam today. Great. And along with this, I thought of this note like about that feeling, like selling that feeling. I saw this on Instagram the other day because I'm also a snow skier, and I follow somebody's skiing down a mountain. I'm not. I'm like lame, and I'm here getting ready for this presentation. I could be skiing, but he's skiing, and he's like going down the mountain. And it says like the text like, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a ski pass. It's so dumb. But it's not dumb, because it's the thing, like that's what we're doing as designers, is making some product or another. Like, you can't, whatever happiness is or whatever perfection is, like you can pretend that you can have it, but I can sell you this cool backpack, because here's what it does. And that's like the great spirit. That's like the spirit of like product design, or I think, which is cool, which interests me. I like doing that in restaurants. There's the word mise en scène, or trompe-l'oeil, or I guess just the idea that I learned this like way back at Good Luck. I want people to come inside and forget they're in Rochester, and that's almost trite. Like, okay, of course, but no, I really mean it. I want you to come in here. I don't want you to think about paying your taxes. I don't want you to think about the breakup you just went through. I want you to think about this place. And that's what, again, this, like whatever that is. Like you go in there, I want you to feel that. Away from the stress of your job, away from the anxiety of having homework done or something like that, and you feel that place. And you don't feel like the rain and the silly ways. Isn't it amazing here in this city how many times you can get on the expressway but only go one way? Like you can't go, like what? Like, okay, I don't know. Anyway, don't pay attention to that in this space. Just be here. So that's the feeling. And then the aesthetic of everything's good up there. So the light just turned off. Okay, we're good over here. The aesthetic evolves. This is Jackrabbit Club. This was a place I opened with my partners at Good Luck in 2018. This is where as you start to get good at it. So now we've opened up a few places, and you start to the target. This needs to be an event place. It's not quite as exciting, but sometimes it's cool that like when you really understand feeling to the degree. You don't have to be overt with it. You can practice that through simpler forms. So this is actually Jackrabbit Club is an event space. So you go in when there is an event. It's not a retail bar. You can go off the street. This is actually one of my favorite bar designs, and it's just that simple. It's just that sketch up there, and that simple double buttress, I guess, kind of thing, and I just really like how sleek that is. But around that time, and again, this is where you don't really have you don't have like a narrative story. You know what you want it to be, and you know how to maybe a master of the materials, and those Muji lights, and there's Muji lights, which is like a high design light. Those are those like collapsible silicone shop lights. I think they're high design. Maybe they're not. Someone in the back's like, that's crap, and you know it. But no, there's those, and the pillars there are just from West Elm. But the mixture of that stuff makes a cool place. Somewhere around that time, I took a screenshot of the image in the the coordinates, the illustrator coordinates are in there. Anyway, that little motorcycle was a freelance project I did. Again, it was like this particular place down at Cuca Lake had a lot of history in that it used to be the garage of, it was like the person they were honoring that used to have something to do with the property, like invented the motorcycle, like the first motorcycle that you like kind of like lay down on to like ride. And again, it gave us a target, or it gave me a target, and that's, surprise, there's a motorcycle in the logo. That's also what they wanted. Clients, when you do graphic design for restaurants, man, do they get really excited. Like, there's got to be a frog, or there's got to be a football in it, and there's got to be a frog or a football in it. You cannot talk them out of it. But I thought that was pretty successful. This was kind of cool. This is Lucky's. So this is a restaurant my partners and I opened in 2020, right before this thing called COVID happened. But this was fun because we kind of got this idea. We were reinventing a space, and we got the idea to create a false history. And I say that not because it's so brave to like change history, but like when it's just a place, you can make up a little bit about what the place was. So we were just making a bar and a restaurant into hopefully a nicer, a better bar and restaurant. So we thought about reinventing the neighborhood pub, but one thing I thought of is like, what if we make it look like we tore this stuff away and we created like a little legend that they had like illegal poker tournaments upstairs. And it's not because we want that, like, we're not trying to make like a mafia restaurant, but like that idea of like off the books poker tournaments gives you like a context, and you start like designing to it, and it's called Lucky's, and it's good to have luck in poker and blah 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 blah. So some of the imagery, there's like a booth design there. and that's just some that's like the current graphics. It's English. It's an English pub, so they're like in the graphics. It took the crest of England and made it into a matchbook and a gift card. I'm sure the Queen's happy, but she's not around to tell me. False Histories is funny. I also was doing freelance around this time, maybe a year before, for the George Eastman Museum, because they were redesigning their cafe. I got really excited because I sat in a meeting, and they were like, well, where the cafe is going to be located used to be George Eastman's garage. And it had this like rotating thing, like he could drive his car in, and then there was like this turntable that like turned the car around, so he'd like come out. It's so cool. And I leaned into it. I came up with all these concept sketches, like we're gonna make this a garage. Like this is gonna be like, you're just gonna say, like, you're not gonna say where the cafe is, like it's gonna just say like the garage. We'll call it that, and all this stuff. I got all excited. But the thing is it wasn't exactly where the garage was. I mean, that's what they told me. It turns out that museums, no matter how much energy I have, they don't really like to change history. You're not really allowed to lie about what something used to be there, so they shut that down. And it's a nice sandwich shop, though. Cool. And this is, yeah, great. Wow. We're doing good. We're doing good at time. I'm almost done. You don't have to listen to me too much longer. This is my newest project, and again, this was an existing business that my team and I transformed, and we wanted to erase the obsolete. It was a bar, and we wanted everyone to come in and immediately never think about the other bar. Like never realize another bar was there. And it's not because it was bad or poorly done. It was there for a long time, and we're making a new bar. So we talk about this, Ben, back in the story, the narrative that we talked about with Lucky's and the poker, talked about this idea, wrote this whole kind of story as we were building it, like pretending that there was this woman named Martine that was the stepmother of this guy that inherited the bar after the Vietnam War, and we designed this whole bar with this like fake story in mind, not to exploit anything, but just because as a designer, to me, I don't know how to just make a bar into another bar. Like there's got to be something. There's got to be something that we're chasing. There's got to be a target. There's got to be some way that some fulcrum, so I can design toward to solve the problem, to make people feel the feeling. And this is cool, but to get, if you are a designer like I am, and you like more than the aesthetic and how the thing works, we do kegged cocktails here because of the small amount of space we have. So you have this custom-built refrigerator in the basement that allows us to serve cocktails very fast, because it drives sends the cocktail mixture to 2 different bars. But it's part of how it's successful. Like there's a design problem. The design problem is that in this second image from the left here, the bar that the Jets is standing at is, you can't really see how close to the wall it is, but we didn't want people, when they come in, to have a bar with stools and never be able to order. So I wanted to drive the bar back. Putting the bar back didn't have enough room on both sides. A bar actually takes up a lot of depth, because you have to have like the bar top and then like your little thing of ice, and you got to stand, and you got to have like your coolers behind you. So it takes up really about 12. It can easily take 9 to 12 feet of depth from the wall. We didn't have that there, so kind of just that idea. Let's make this bar here so it feels good to people. Drove the whole engine of the cocktails to be a different format, and we have this again cocktail. The heart of the operation is this cocktail igloo in the basement that sends delicious things up to the taps. And then it looks pretty cool. I like it. I'm proud of it. It was a fun one to do. Got it to work again with Weldworks. Made those from some crappy sketches I made those beautiful brass forms that are shelves up top. And Trotta Woodworking again did the hickory bar tops. Little designers of little Easter eggs. This is on South and Hickory. And most of the wood in the place is hickory. No one will ever know that. No one will ever know that the screws on those benches, the panhead brass screws, are all turned. They're like this at Cure too. Look next time. They're all completely parallel. At Martine, they're all at 45 degrees. I mean, I think there are 238 of them or something. There are 238. They're exactly at 45 degrees. yeah, recreating something beloved, erasing the obsolete, that we get to make a cool new place. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know. I think I'm going to open another place. I don't know what it's going to be. I think sometimes I think about going back to school and being an architect. But I do know that like it has worked for me. That starting with that bin of Legos, that bin of parts, embracing the unlikely path, and like it's okay to not know you're a designer, and then realize it later. Just like it's okay to know you're a designer and then work your way up. These are a couple cool things those are some of the graphic elements for this restaurant group called Seamore's in New York. And couldn't really find, I think I lost a phone with a lot of photos, but I couldn't find a lot of photos of the Meatball Shop, but there's one I found of like that was kind of cool, the logo that was in the window there when they opened up on Orchard Street. And then to prove, yeah, Esquire magazine, they look, that's good luck right there. They're like, this is an awesome bar. We're gonna put it in our magazine, and that felt good. So sometimes it's nice to have like you know, awards are just awards. They don't really do anything, but it's nice to have that validation and know what you're doing, and all that work means something. That feeling means something to other people. But yeah, I thank you very, very much.
Questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Have any questions out there? One in the back.
I'm curious about your experience working with contractors, and it seems like you really try to keep it local. I guess how you find them, relationships with them, how they respond to your approach, and how you respond to theirs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that goes back to, well, how you find them is like you eventually, as you do this for a while, you get a Rolodex of people. I mean, I've got a few plumbers and a few electricians, you know, that you have to. But general contractors, I mean, when we did Good Luck, it was like a guy that we knew that could build anything, and then we were there a lot. I mean, I helped sand the floor. You know, you're doing some of the work yourself. But the thing, to answer the question, I guess, directly, or the heart of it, it's drawing. And it's so boring to just say that. But again, it's drawing and being humble. Because when you're going to tell somebody that knows more than you how to do their job, which is sort of what you're doing, you come to it with, you have a lot more credence when you're saying, hey, I had this cool idea to do the sashes of the windows. Like, what if we do some brass down here, and I want to see like some acorn nuts where the studs are come through because they're decorative. They're gonna look like your nuts, but you have the drawing, and they'll see that sparkle in your eye from the humility, and you learn how to listen to them. It helps also to be. This was an Eames quote. I don't know if Charles or Ray said this, but never delegate understanding, and that's so important to me. Again, with the diaspora staff that I have, same thing with the contractors. Have like an idea, go into like you know a little bit about what they go through, like how to build it. It's not too different than if you are designing an electronic product and the battery's got to fit in there somehow. Have some idea of how they're going to get it done, so you don't ask them to, put a square peg through a round hole kind of thing. But drawing is great. Being able to come with a drawing and then be able to whip out turn the paper over and then say like, well, what if we did this? They'll like that a lot. And then when they find that you know how to dimension it and do elevations and stuff, they'll make you do it. They go, cool. But you save a lot of money there too, because in doing an interior project, restaurants are very regulated. Building codes are always changing. So you have to saves a lot of time in between typing the email of the idea to the interior architect, who then takes it to the stamped architect, and then goes back through a revision process. Just start with the drawing.
More questions? All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Chuck. That was fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Josh.
And we look forward to seeing you at our next Design Conversations lecture in about 3 weeks. Check out the website for info. Thanks, everyone.